Hi guys, I want to go ahead and show you how I set up a 20-gallon equivalent enclosure for a corn snake. This is going to be for Sindragosa. She is my strawberry ghost, my strawberry snow Tessera corn snake, and I finally freed up some space for her, so we can go ahead and move over to a enclosure that is at least bigger. I do want to move over into a full-size enclosure soon, but money and space is always a challenge when you have a lot of snakes like I do. So let's go ahead and make sure that we are doing it right and setting up a good enclosure that she's going to be more comfortable in until I can get her a full-size adult enclosure. But this will work pretty well for another 6 months, and that's all I really need is another 6 months, and I should have the money and be able to free up some more space with my snakes. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. We are using a underbed storage box. This is equivalent of a 20-gallon long enclosure. So we're not even ready for this yet. We have a heat mat and thermostat, of course. The thermostat is set to 87 degrees, or I might bump it up to 88 depending on how it's reading. But this is also on Allmax reflective insulated foam board from Allmax. So that is my heating system I'm using for the enclosure. Also, I'm using a heater in the room to keep the room in the upper 70s, up to 81 degrees. In the summer, it gets up to 82, but I'm trying to. That's more of an issue of the summer, and I have the AC in this room also. So that's what keeps the temperature regulated in the room, which is going to be regulating the rest of the enclosure. So let's go ahead and get that set up over here, right on the heat mats. And let me go ahead and open up the lid, and you will see that the heat mat covers. It covers about half of the enclosure. This is a little more than what's needed for a corn snake, for an enclosure this size. If it was a bigger enclosure, it would work a lot. It'd be a little bit better, but this is it's covering half the enclosure, so we'll have a good woman. Actually, no, I'm gonna shift the heat mat. I'm gonna shift the enclosure back, so it covers just a little bit less. I'm taking about an inch off of the enclosure. Something you might be seeing is with the lid back on, I have modified this box with did I twist it? Yeah, I put the lid on backwards. Yes, it does matter, and I'm about to explain how it's backwards. So I modified the box with bolts that go through to help hold down the lid, because if I just snap the two, the corner can still come up quite a bit, so I don't want a snake to be able to push out of that. So I'm putting a bolt and wing nut on the corner that there's no way that can come up now. So that is an escape-proof enclosure. The snake has to break the enclosure in order to get out, and that's just not going to happen. So let's go ahead and open that back up. So this is so you have your heating set up. That's the heating settings. How the heating is set up. It's on a thermostat, of course. Always use a thermostat with all your heating elements. We have some bolts for hides, but we'll get into that later. So after I set the enclosure up, what I like to add first is the bedding. Add the bedding last, the bedding gets in the water dish, and that's gross and whatnot. So, but we have the bedding. So bedding goes in first, and I don't want to make it super thick, because as I add the hides, and I don't want to make it thick at all, because when I add the hides in the enclosure, the hides and water bowl goes to take up space in the enclosure. So that is something that I don't want to overdue. So there we go. That is just the right amount. You can go thick. You can't go too thick with the bedding. The only issue is, like, if you use too much bedding in a top opening enclosure, the bedding tends to get pushed into the water dish a lot. So that's something that you do want to avoid happening if possible. Let me go ahead and so got that. We want to set up the hides. You have a hide on the hot side and a hide down on the cool side. Let me go ahead and just show you the temperatures real fast with my infrared thermometer. These are very useful for setting up enclosures. We want to go ahead and I'm just zapping. This is room temperature, so it's about 72, 71 degrees in here, which that's the temperature of the bedding, and that's actually okay. I prefer to keep it a little bit hotter, like I do. I like to do the upper 70s for my corn snakes because it helps them fight off any like ailments that they might pick up randomly. So, you know, just keeping that on the wall, keeping that from getting too cold gives them the best chance of like fighting off pathogens and whatnot. So on top of the bedding on top of the heat mat, that's already up to like 72, 73, maybe 74 degrees. Well, this is still just like 70, 71 on this side. But when I pull the bedding back, that's already 80, 85 degrees. And that is really great. The snake can bow down. The snake is going to spend a lot of time with its belly on the heat mat, like on the bottom of the enclosure. You know, it's kind of half buried in the bedding. Under the hide on the hot side, you're already looking at 74 degrees. And as I let that rest, the air under the hide in that bedding is going to warm up because it has that insulation. The bedding is insulation. So that's really what I want to point out with like why heat mats work and why, you know, you don't necessarily have to use overhead heating. Though overhead heating is nice. I do use that with my other snakes, my other setups that are more permanent and the full size enclosures. But let's go ahead and move that about there. So that's going to be on the cool side. Let's go ahead and get the water dish. And this is going to be the water dish for Sindragosa. The name on it. This is a kernel bowl. I like using kernel bowls because they fit into the kernel. When you're setting up a baby in an enclosure, you want to put the water dish in the kernel if possible. If you can't do a kernel, putting it against the side is also really good because the snake will go around the edges of the enclosure, exploring first, and therefore they'll more quickly find the water. So that's very important. I like to use water dishes that are big enough for the snake to soak in. And if you have your husbandry 100% perfect and the snake is 100% content and absolutely no problems at all, then you can use a tiny little water dish. But that doesn't let the snake regulate itself as much. So say if it was a hot day, it got up to like 85 degrees in here, which it does. This is Texas, you know. This is coastal Texas and whatnot. So that is very much a possibility. I want to make sure that, you know, they can soak in. So that the water dish is going to be right there. So that's perfect. I'm going to get a rock to put in here. You don't want pebbles. Pebbles, because the snakes can accidentally eat a pebble and cause impaction, which is a horrible problem. You want to use a rock that's bigger than a rat. Like, you don't need something huge, but you want something that's bigger than the snake could ever possibly try to eat. And I think I got one of those over here. I didn't get this out before I started the video, but I always keep them handy. So, oh yeah, that's a rock. That's a rock. That is a rock. I like to use river stones. So this is a river stone. You can don't buy these from pet stores. Buy these from landscapers. You can put them in a pot of water and boil it. Don't drop the rock in boiling water. Put the water in, then put the rock in, then turn it on boil, and that will sterilize anything really, especially something as basic as a rock. So I'm going to put this rock on the warm side. So say if I use power, that rock is going to stay a bit more warm longer than like the rest of the enclosure is going to be. So that's also really good, and that's going to give them something really rough to rub up against if they'll try and get a little piece of shed off. I've never seen them actually do this, but people say that they do, and I want to believe it. So this is kind of set up, but I don't like this enough. So I don't really have too many more hides at the moment. I always am working on making new hides. These hides are like 50-cent bowls from Target, and though polypropylene 5, which is food safe, obviously it's a bowl. So therefore, it's 100% safe in the enclosure. You want to make sure plastics are PP5 or PP7. That's what's in the that's right next to the little recycling mark on the plastic. That's on all plastic, really. At least plastic in the United States, unless you're buying something that's not regulated by the United States. Then in that case, I probably wouldn't put it in an enclosure ever unless I saw that. Unless I can get the guarantee that that's exactly what it is. But yes, it's polypropylene 5, so that's all good. Let's go ahead and I want to show you like the coolest hide that I've ever found. This was $3 at Target, and it is a salsa and chip dish, and that is an amazing, it becomes an amazing hide, because like the snake goes in and they go around the back side, and they can hide like behind this side of it, and then like stick a head over here and still see out. So the snake is really well hidden, and this is actually just big enough, just small enough to fit inside the enclosure. I'm saving this for another bigger snake because this is a really big hide. That is in brumation right now. I just got this cleaned for the other snake is about to come out of brumation. So, but the same brand that these are, they also make plates that are about like, I want to say 11-inch dinner plates, and those also work really well with corn snakes. You cut a little cave hole on them, and you just put those down in the enclosure, and especially like on the hot side, that's going to keep the heat down real low. Like that's going to keep the warm air like real low and give a lot of insulation that the snake's going to be able to stay in. So it's going to be a very effective, heating system, because the heating system is not just the heat mat. It's the surface underneath the heat mat. It's on top of the enclosure, and then it's also in the enclosure, which is the bedding, the hides, and everything. So it's a full system with the heat. So let's go ahead and you see it. So this is 72 on top of the hide, 71, almost 72. This is going to be 69 on top of that hide. So that's just the already difference. And let me go ahead and zap underneath the hide again. 75 degrees, like I said, and pull the bedding back after it's been set up a little bit longer. 84, what was that, 80, yeah, 85 degrees. And that's just a little bit of time that I'm talking. So a big hide like this is good, and the second cell get on top of it if they want to. And so the one thing this enclosure doesn't have is a lot of vertical space. You can buy bigger boxes. I don't like using them when the box is already raised up pretty high already, and I have a limited amount of space. So I'm using this in this case. But I can also still take advantage of the little bit of vertical space I have, because they will the snake is going to spend a lot of time on the ridge of the water dish. Like, it's crazy that they do this and whatnot, because that's something they can be up on. So give them anything that gets up towards close to the lid, they love. And it's not that this, I don't know necessarily if it's the fact that the snake likes to climb. It's that the snakes like to have nothing above them. So like on taller enclosures, things like bearded dragon hammocks all work really well on taller enclosures. But this is just a very underbed storage box. So the snake will like to climb. They will like to use those muscles, and this is going to be a nice upgrade for a limited time. Oh, let me go ahead and grab some paper towel rolls because how many paper towel rolls do I have up here? Looks like only the one paper towel roll. Yeah, paper towel roll. So you can go through that. You can double back in it. She's getting kind of big, so I don't think she's gonna double back in it too much. But they'll go through it and they'll like it. So like this is a basic setup. I would like to get more hides in here, but I'm out of hides at the moment, and I'll have to be rigging up some more hides real soon. But this is a quick setup, and let me get the wattle. Wattle is very important for animals. So like I said, you want to put the water bowl in either last or at least after you put the bedding in, because you don't want the bedding in the water dish, because that's what the snake does. The snake likes to put the bedding in the water dish because that's what they do. And on we go. Let me go ahead and get Sindragosa out, because hey, you know what? If I'm setting up this enclosure for a corn snake, you want to see the corn snake. So Sindragosa is right on top of the enclosure is just actually sitting out in the open on a little bench right now. Let me put this up here so I was going to be blocking the shot. This is what I use to heat up my mice. I put them in a bag, and I put the bag underneath that little oven thing I rigged up. Alright, let's get out Sindragosa. Hey, girl. Hey. So this is the beautiful Sindragosa. And she is a strawberry snow Tessera. And she is absolutely beautiful. I think those are red factor gene in, but it's a beautiful red factor gene. Those like 2 or 3, there's like 3, maybe 4 red factor genes. We really don't know how many red factor genes there are in corn snakes, but she has at least 1, and with the strawberry gene, it makes it look really beautiful. So let me go ahead and put into the enclosure. And she might actually stay low in there, so I'm not too worried about her. She's going to go straight in the hide. And you know what? I'm just going to clean this off real fast, and I'll add this in there too, so she'll have a nice big hide to go under. Let me go. So that will be good for her as well. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Definitely stick around. You've seen my other guide videos, and she's just going straight into a hide. But let me go ahead and pull this out, and let me get this out of the way. Let me go ahead and put this right here. Pull this out. Take this back down. I have really limited amount of space in here. And let me go ahead and put the lid on, and you'll see the beauty of this lid. So, lid's on, secure the lid, get your wing nuts, and wing nuts don't have to be tight, they'll just have to just going down until they stop, and that keeps the lid from ever being able to be pushed up by the snake. A really easy setup. Takes a couple of dollars, and you got a enclosure the snake can never escape from, and you can rest easy at night knowing that snake's not going to go anywhere else. Alright, anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, see other content on my channel. This is just a quick setup, and that helps explain like what's going on with the heating and like how it actually works and whatnot. So like that bedding over here is never going to get like higher than room temperature, but inside the bedding, like of the heat mat inside that hide, beautiful. Especially when I get this plate cleaned off, and you get because this came out right out of our other hide. Get this plate cleaned off, put it in there. There's that 11-inch dinner plate I was talking about. She's gonna love it, And I'll put this like half on the heat mat, half off the heat mat. And therefore she has a heat gradient just even within her own height. It's amazing. Anyway, I'm out, guys. I've already closed the video like 3 times. So, yeah. See ya!